Just checking the connections here. Looks like we are live. All right, let's jump right into this right now. So, pretty interesting week. I think that as the weeks keep going along, a lot of the chat obviously is about interest rates, prices dropping, all that stuff. It feels like you can't turn one way or the other these days without hearing it on anything, either the newspaper, the Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, you name it. And yeah, definitely, there's a lot of turbulence right now in the market, and I do think that kind of taking a step back and just thinking of like, what is your personal goals like for real estate, and having that mentality every time. So, few questions have come in. As always, if you ever have questions, either send me a DM, send me a message, send me a text, whatever. Give me a call. These are the questions that I put together over the week and as things go along. And so let's jump right in. So the first question, it just says investor good time question mark. Um, my guess is it a good time for investors? And that answer is definitely it depends. And the reason I say it depends is that I think that it's really important as an investor to know your numbers and to know your numbers first and foremost. So, anytime I sit down with investors, I want to go through and make sure that we have the conversation of, obviously, like no one has a crystal ball, so we don't know exactly where these properties are going to go in the future. But we want to make sure that okay, if we're going to look at properties, are they in good areas? What is the rental income? I always would say when you're looking at doing an investment property, use a lower than market rental income just in case. Like obviously you want to buffer in a bit of a margin. Right now, as interest rates are going up, maybe use a higher interest rate. So when you kind of calculate your monthly payments, you also want to factor in things like, okay, are you purchasing in a building if you're in Ontario, of course, are you purchasing in a building that was built newer than November 15th, 2018? And if so, you're allowed to raise the rent once per year, once per 12 months, up to market rent, whatever number that may be. If you're buying a building older than November 15th, 2018, then you're only allowed to raise the rent by the consumer price index, which the next year will be 2.5%. This year was 1.2%, and last year was actually zero. So definitely something to think about. And on top of that, what is it going to cost per month? Are you going to be cash flowing or positive, negative? These days in Toronto, pretty much most of the greater Toronto area, pretty tough to get cash flow positive these days, in all honesty. But if you're buying a great property in a great area that over time will probably do well, then depends on what that offset is each month and depends on what you're buying. Now that being said, actually one of the questions here is, are there any deals in the market? We could jump right into that. Do I think there's deals in the market? I think right now there definitely have been some pretty good price decreases from what we would have seen a little while ago. So I'm just gonna move my phone out of the way there. And from where things were a few months ago, you're definitely seeing price points have definitely come down since then, especially depending on which area, which type of property, which location. Every micro market is so different right now. Like it's crazy. Like it's like we keep getting these numbers as a whole and blanket numbers, but really every single property is a case by case, every single area is case by case, every market, or sorry, every micro market is also case by case. So definitely have to look at numbers and stats and think about like where are you looking to invest, what is the return on that investment, if you're looking at cap rates, if you're looking at the monthly kind of rent potential that it has. Right now in Toronto the rents are bananas. And, even things like, does it have parking that you can rent out right now? Like some buildings are renting parking out for $325 a month, and studios are renting for $2,000 a month. So maybe getting a studio with parking that you can rent out for like 2,300 a month right now is the play, because you can get them for sub basically 500 right now. There's a few on the market. So really depends on what you're looking to invest, but also you have to think about from a studio standpoint, maybe the growth isn't as big as something else, maybe a two bedroom that you can rent for much higher, and later down the road it will have better upside potential. Just different things. Go through all the scenarios, talk to your realtor, go through all the what ifs, and make sure you try to answer all those questions and then see if, now's the right time for you. It's always about the client. Is it the right time for the client? Um, if you've purchased in the last little while and you felt like you overpaid based on what the prices are now, a couple things to keep in mind. Number one, most people, the sale price is really mostly important when you buy and sell, not so much in the ebbs and flows of the market over that time. The key is, can you carry that cost every month? And the other key is, how long do you intend to keep the property? If you intend to be there for 5 to 10 years and it's a home that you want to grow into as a family or whatever by yourself, doesn't matter. Chances are over time, and we've seen the history, it's through all the ebbs and flows, we're at 6.7% a year increases in Toronto for the last 40, 45 years. That's pretty good. So something to think about for sure. Next one here. Can we talk about status certificates? Yeah, absolutely. So status certificate is basically, in its purest form, you're going through the health of the building. You're going through the condo declaration, you're going through the rules, you're going to see all the information about this condo building in a very lengthy document. There's tons of attachments. You're going to see the down to the minute percentage of how much, you know, real estate that your unit would take up of the whole building. So that number could be like 0.0000123 or whatever. So you're going to see like how much your square footage counts towards the whole building. And then your condo fee will be based on that. You're going to see things like, um, are there any lawsuits against the property? Are there any upcoming special assessments? So maybe the condo corporation needs to get all the windows fixed in the building. They need to get that money from somewhere. Is there anything extra that's going to come in that's going to, affect the cost? A couple things I'll say about status certificates is that usually they're only good until technically the day they're printed, because every month, the new condo fees are going to come in. You're going to also want to see if the current owner has paid up their condo fees to date, and if they haven't, that fee actually continues with the property. So then you're going to have to make sure that if it's not paid up, and number one, I'm going to say I'm not a lawyer and I'm not giving advice like a lawyer. I've talked to a lot of lawyers, and this is kind of what the information they tell me. But number one, automatically send that status certificate to your lawyer. Don't try to decipher it yourself and figure out if, from your perspective it makes sense. You should get it reviewed by a lawyer. That's number one. And they'll be able to walk you through that. But I just want to go over some of the key points. You're going to want to make sure that, yeah, there's no, they're going to talk to you about if there are any lawsuits against the building, if there's any special assessments coming up, if the condo fees are going to go up. That's pretty important to know. Like if they're expecting that, you're going to see the health of the budget. You're going to see the reserve fund, how much money they have as a whole to take care of the property in the future. And that's subjective, but definitely depends on, the size of the building and the age and the scope of the work that could be done. Do I think that having a newer building versus an older building makes a difference? Again, it depends. Older buildings typically need more maintenance, more work. Newer buildings haven't really had their, funds check out yet. Like they're still working on getting, hey Wolfgang, they're still working on getting things organized so that, the future budget, and they're still building the reserve funds. So, there's pros and cons to both, definitely. One thing I will say, if you are purchasing a pre-built condo and they're predicting don't purchase that condo based on what the fees are at, because I have seen where it's a marketing technique and they're saying, I saw one building, this is a few years ago, mind you. Now I think people have definitely figured this out, but it was like 31 cents a square foot for the condo fee. And on average, I would say it's somewhere between 70 to 80 cents a square foot. So at 31 cents a square foot, yes, it looks amazing on paper when you first purchase that property. But in a year or two, and the condo corp comes around and starts knocking on the window saying, or knocking on the door saying, hey, everybody, we're short on funds. We need to build up the reserve fund. It's because they were too low to begin with. So definitely something to keep in mind there. Um, but yeah, uh, absolutely mandatory. If you are purchasing a condo townhouse, whatever, make sure you get the status certificate. Make sure you get it reviewed by a lawyer, and make sure they walk you through it. If you have any questions about the building, it'll also show you like they also put in there like how many units are leased versus owned, lived in, sorry, or occupied by owner, and that could matter too. If you want a building that has more owners versus people who are leasing, you'll see that in there. It might not always be accurate, but at least to the building's knowledge, that's where it sits at. So definitely get those checked out. Super, super important. Last one here. Oh, dude. Yesterday I was coaching some goalies and somebody asked me, yeah, I jump out there. The odd actually it was the first time of the year that I've had some time to just jump out and coach some goalies. It's pretty fun. Nice to get back on the ice. And one of the guys asked me, do I miss playing? And it's interesting. Like I think yesterday watching some high level goalies uh training and the intensity and the speed and everything, like it's amazing to think like that's what I used to do. And that was, how I used to operate at this point of the summer. I'd be leaving, go back to Europe in the next probably week or so. I think the guys are leaving. And at this point of the summer, you're in the best shape you can be in. You're stopping pucks at a high pace and you're really working hard to prep for the season. And I think that, seeing it at a high level yesterday was probably the first time that I've really been like, oh, like I kind of missed that a little bit. But since then, it's been just over a year and a half since I retired, and don't miss it. Don't miss it. Actually, I'm super happy in my new career, but seeing it there though, and seeing that level of compete and the excitement of the guys who were practicing, and just the speed of everything, it was pretty fun to watch, pretty exciting to see. So yeah, that's it. That's our questions for today. Does anybody have anything else? Let me check Instagram there. Yeah, hey Wolfgang, hey everybody. Thanks for joining. All right. That's it for today. Jumping off. Have an awesome week. The Feds are down in our US counterparts there. They're announcing their interest rates today. It will be really interesting to see what they do as in Canada here. We typically follow suit. Wolfgang says, "Do you miss Linz?" Yeah, of course I miss Linz. I definitely miss being there. I miss, I'd love to be there in the summertime. It's so fun there, and miss all my little cafes and things like that. So yeah, no, miss it for sure. And playing there in front of incredible fans was always something I'll remember for the rest of my life. So anyway, yeah, pretty exciting. Let's see what those Feds do today. I think all eyes are there because we typically follow suit in Canada. And our next announcement September 12th. So anyway, that's a live stream for today. Have an awesome Wednesday, and we will talk to you guys next week. Same time, playing around between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m.